"Get off my property," she screeched, her voice echoing like a banshee across the glassy lake, clipboard waving like a battle flag in her manicured claws. But wait, this wasn't her property at all. It was mine, bought fair and square with my late mom's hard-earned inheritance. And this HOA queen bee in her power blazer was about to learn that her reign of petty terror was built on a foundation of lies and embezzled cash. By the end of this saga, she'd be trading her smug smirk for prison stripes, and oh, the sweet, ironic justice of watching her empire crumble under the weight of her own hypocrisy. I never thought buying a quiet slice of suburbia would turn me into the neighborhood pariah, but that's exactly what happened in Willow Creek Estates, a cookie-cutter community in suburban Georgia where the lawns were greener than envy and the rules thicker than a phone book. Picture it, rows of identical McMansions, each with perfectly trimmed hedges, mandatory beige mailboxes, and an HOA that policed everything from fence heights to holiday lights like it was the FBI on a stakeout. I'd moved here after Mom passed, using her small nest egg to snag 2 acres backing onto a forgotten pond or lake, as they called it, that promised solitude amid the whispering pines and lazy cattails. But solitude? What I got was a front-row seat to the absurd theater of American suburbia, where community spirit was code for, "Do what we say or we'll ruin you." My name's Alex Rivera, and for the past 12 years, I've been a title researcher and land surveyor, digging through dusty courthouse records like an archaeologist unearthing buried treasures, or in most cases, buried disputes. I know my way around plats, deeds, and those sneaky covenants that can turn a dream home into a nightmare. When I closed on this property, I quadruple-checked everything. No liens, no easements, and 0 HOA entanglements. The lake was smack in the middle of my parcel, a serene body of water that connected underground to a creek. But more on that bombshell later. I figured I'd fix up the place, maybe build a dock for fishing, and finally breathe after years of city grind. Boy, was I naive. The trouble started on day 3. I just parked my beat-up Ford by the tree line, unloading stakes and a transit level to map out some minor improvements, when I heard the unmistakable crunch of sensible shoes on gravel. There she was, Karen Whitaker, HOA President Extraordinaire, striding toward me like she owned the deed to my soul. Mid-50s, peroxide blonde bob haircut sharper than her tongue, clad in a crimson blazer that screamed, "I'm in charge," and flanked by 2 lackeys, Greg, the vice president with a binder under his arm like it was the nuclear codes, and old man Harold, who looked like he'd rather be napping. "Excuse me, sir," Karen barked, her voice laced with that fopolite venom that HOA Tyrant's perfect over years of nitpicking flower beds. "This lake is community property. You'll need board approval for any work. And those stakes? Absolutely not. They violate Section 4.2 on visual obstructions." I straightened up, wiping sweat from my brow, and met her gaze with the calm of someone who's seen this rodeo before. "Community property? Ma'am, I just bought this from the county auction. The lake's within my boundaries. Deed says so. Clear as day." Greg squinted at me like I just confessed to mooning the mayor. "You sure about that, buddy? We've managed this lake for 15 years. Everyone knows it's ours." Mistakes happen in those old records. I couldn't help but chuckle inwardly at the irony. A guy who probably couldn't read a map lecturing a surveyor on deeds. "Pretty sure. Yeah. It's my job. But hey, if you've got proof, show me." Karen's lips thinned into a line that could slice bread. "We'll review this at the next meeting. In the meantime, cease all activity." For the good of the community, of course. She spun on her heel, her entourage trailing like obedient puppies. But not before Harold shot me a sympathetic glance that said, "Buddy, you just poked the bear." By noon, the whispers started. I caught snippets from neighbors peeking over fences, new guys trying to steal our lake, probably some flipper looking to ruin the view. Karen had already fired up the neighborhood Facebook group, posting a veiled rant about outsiders disregarding traditions. I bit my tongue, figuring it was just small-town drama. But then the first cop showed up, siren off but lights flashing for maximum intimidation. "Sir, complaint about unauthorized construction on shared land." I showed him the deed. He checked his radio and left with a shrug. "Looks legit, but keep it civil." An hour later, cop number 2. Same song, different verse. By late afternoon, the third patrol car rolled in, and I was starting to feel like the star of my own bad reality show. All complaints traced back to one source, Karen Whitaker, guardian of the cul-de-sacs. That night, I sat on my tailgate, staring at the lake's inky surface under a canopy of stars. Mom's words echoing, "Land's your legacy, Alex. Guard it with facts, not fists." I wasn't about to let some power-hungry busybody chase me off. So, I went digging literally and figuratively. The next dawn, I donned waders and waded into the muck, probing the lake bed with a metal rod. The cold slime clung to my legs like regret, but after an hour of methodical jabs, clang solid concrete. I scraped away the silt to reveal a rusted culvert, a 30-inch pipe trickling water eastward. Jackpot. Back on dry land, I fired up my laptop, cross-referencing old USGS maps from 1952. Sure enough, this pond fed into Willow Creek, which dumped into the federally navigable Ocmulgee River. Under 33 CFR 329.4 from the Army Corps of Engineers, this was waters of the United States federal turf, not HOA playground. Karen's community lake was about as legit as a $3 bill. I compiled my arsenal, a thick binder dubbed The Truth Bomb, photos of the culvert, GPS cords stamped, certified maps, the full reg text with my highlights, my spotless deed, and a log of those police visits, each one a notch in Karen's harassment belt. I backed it all up digitally, stashed a copy in a safe deposit box, and emailed the HOA, requesting a meeting to discuss lake jurisdiction. "I have key docs for review." Karen's reply pinged back faster than a bad check. "Fine." Thursday, 7 p.m., Community Hall. Be prompt. The meeting room smelled like stale coffee and desperation, with 5 board members lined up like a firing squad behind rickety tables. Karen sat center stage, lips pursed like she'd sucked a lemon, Greg glowering beside her, and the treasurer, Paula, fidgeting with a stack of papers. "Let's make this quick," Karen snapped, her voice dripping with that holier-than-thou tone. "This lake has been under our stewardship for years, fostering community harmony. What exactly is your issue, Mr. Rivera?" I flipped open my laptop, projecting the first slide, the culvert photo. "No issue, just facts. This connects to a navigable waterway. Federal jurisdiction trumps your rules." Paula leaned in, eyes widening. "Wait, so we don't control it?" Karen waved her off. "Nonsense. We've invested in upkeep, landscaping, testing for the greater good." I slid the covenants over. "Your docs don't even mention the lake. But you've charged $150 yearly lake fees to 150 homes. That's $337,500 over 15 years. Where's the accounting? The room froze. Greg blustered. That's confidential. I smirked. Not anymore. Paula muttered. Karen, I've asked for those ledgers. Karen's face flushed beet red. This meeting's adjourned, but as she stormed out, I caught the first cracks in her facade. The queen was rattled. The smears ramped up overnight. The Facebook group exploded with posts. Beware the new neighbor, troublemaker alert, anonymous tips to code enforcement about my illegal surveying. I stayed silent, observing like a hawk, gathering ammo. Then came the email from Eleanor Hayes, a longtime resident. Meet me at the diner. I know the real story. Over greasy eggs. The silver-haired widow spilled. That lake was Old Man Thompson's till he died in 2008. Kids out west. No interest. Karen convinced the board to manage it. No deed. Just a vote. Anyone who questioned got fined for non-compliance. She handed over yellowed minutes. A one-liner assuming lake oversight with no legal basis, plus a list of bullied dissenters. This wasn't just about my land. It was a suburban scam, wrapped in community bows. Armed with that, I rallied. HOA bylaws required a special meeting with 15 signatures. Eleanor helped me snag 18. Karen delayed, citing scheduling conflicts, but 3 weeks later, the hall was packed, tension thick as fog. Karen opened with her saccharine smile. We're here to clarify lake matters for our harmonious neighborhood. She nodded at me like I was a naughty child. Mr. Rivera. I hooked up the projector. Folks, this lake's mine, but you've all paid for a fiction. Slide 1, map with culvert glow. Slide 2, federal regs. Slide 3, a pie chart of missing funds, $337K unaccounted. Where'd it vanish? Murmurs swelled. Paula piped up. Karen, those insurance docs you promised. An old-timer stood. Thompson owned that water. HOA grabbed it post-funeral. Shouts erupted. Refunds. Lies. Karen banged her gavel. This is sabotage. We've upheld standards with integrity. I stayed cool, then audited. The clean. No harm. Votes poured in over 80 yes. Karen fled. Greg trailing. Her integrity mask slipping like cheap makeup. Retaliation hit hard. 2 nights later, my gate chain snipped. Truck scratched with thief. Sign defaced. I installed cams pronto. At midnight, footage caught Greg's muddy-plated SUV lurking. I filed with the sheriff, then blasted the binder to the Army Corps and EPA. Jurisdictional claim plus enviro violations. 10 days ticked by, then the call. Mr. Rivera, Corps here. You're spot on. Cease and desist to HOA imminent. County piled on after homeowner complaints, demanding financials. The audit was a comedy of errors or crimes. Of $337,000, only $90,000 traceable to bogus mowing twice yearly. The rest, funneled to Whitaker Wellness LLC, Karen's shell company at her address, peddling consulting no one saw. EPA dinged them for unpermitted herbicides. $37,500 fine for poisoning the very water they protected. The board imploded. Suspended. Receivership slapped on. Refunds rolled out. $2.50 per home. Karen's arrest made headlines. Her mugshot showed a deflated diva. Blazer swapped for orange. She bailed quick, but the fraud charges stuck. Greg copped to vandalism. $2,000 fine. 80 hours scrubbing graffiti. Poetic. Paula flipped for immunity, spilling on Karen's creative accounting. In the aftermath, I restored the lake proper, core permit for dredging, culvert fix, native plants. It bloomed, frogs croaking, birds diving, water crystal. I launched a voluntary fund, transparent online. Neighbors chipped in $5,000 first year. No coercion needed. The reformed HOA elected Eleanor Prez. Bylaws scrubbed clean. Reports public. Karen got 3 years inside. 5 probation. Full payback. Greg mailed an apology. Pride blinded me. I replied, water under the bridge. Literally. Now, the lake's paradise. Kids giggling on my dock. Herons gliding. Community healed. I volunteer with core workshops, preaching docs over drama. Mom was right, knowledge shields. It started with shouts, ended in silence, the water clearer than ever. But tell me, in a world where HOAs play God with rules, is the real villain the bully with the clipboard, or the silent neighbors who let it happen? Drop your take below, right or wrong.